Snipes and Insights. It's the Monday edition, June 9th, 2025. And Tyler, we are all tied up at one game apiece thanks to no other than Bradley Marchand.
Yeah, we couldn't have asked for a better game two. We were saying when we were previewing game two, there's really no game that could up game one, up the standard, up everything. And then all of a sudden, game two happened on Friday night, and we just got craziness all around. So, what a Stanley Cup final we've been treated to so far through two games. Hopefully, things live up to expectations here as the series shifts to Florida tonight. But yeah, the Rat, Brad Marchand, what a guy, and what an overtime winner for him.
High scoring game, right? There were 5 goals in like the first 12 minutes of that game. Let's just get right into the highlights of game two, Seth. If we can get this Brad Marchand OT winner locked and loaded. I mean, it's just a breakaway, innocuous enough in the overtime. He doesn't really get a clean shot off, but sometimes in double overtime, you don't really need a clean one. You just need one to get behind the red line.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a nice pass by Anton Lundell as well. And Marchand obviously didn't get to do what he wanted to do because of the defenseman that was coming back. I think it was Matthias Ekholm, kind of got a stick on Marchand. But man, what a play still to just shovel it in on your backhand. It was actually the stick there of Leon Draisaitl that kind of impeded him. But just to kind of shovel it through the 5-hole of Stuart Skinner, he sees the puck in, he celebrates with his teammates. I feel like he wanted to just keep flying down the ice, but he already had a couple of his Panthers teammates there to kind of take him down. But a shorthanded goal in the game, which we're used to seeing Brad Marchand do in the regular season and playoffs, and then just a clutch overtime winner to end things and tie the series at 1.
Yeah, and Seth, if we can get the stats of Marchand, since came into the league in 2010, he is currently first in the most Stanley Cup Final goals among active players. So he has 10. But then also, since he entered the league, his playoff stats are ridiculous. He's first in goals scored in the playoffs. He's second in points. He's second in plus minus. So getting on the ice for a lot of goals for, not as many goals against. He's also first in game-winning goals. So he's a guy who he obviously has a lot of playoff games with the success of the Boston Bruins in the 2010s, but he's also put up when the moment shines the brightest. And he's a guy, the Panthers got him at the trade deadline. You didn't know where they were going to play him, and for the most part, he's been tucked away on that third line with Lundell and Luosterainen. But man, has he really showed up in these playoffs.
Yeah, he's become the perfect third liner for Paul Maurice. He couldn't have asked for a better guy to put onto a third line with a couple of really good defensive forwards in Lundell and Luosterainen. And these numbers just speak for themselves. Also, kind of love that, Keith, your guy, Andre Palat, is on this list. So shout out to Andre Palat, who's won a couple Stanley Cups with the Tampa Bay Lightning. But Marchand just continues to do it. When we're talking about Bennett and Ekblad, his teammates making a heck of a lot of money this summer, Brad Marchand's price just keeps going up and up. I know he's 37. I think he's going to be 38 at some point in the near future. But the amount that Brad Marchand's getting paid is going up by the minute, it seems like.
His market value is definitely kind of skyrocketed at this point to the point where the Bennett range is anywhere from 6 million to 10 million is what you're kind of hearing in these rumor mills. But Brad Marchand on a 2 or 3 year deal, is it crazy that he gets $7 or $8 million this offseason just based off of what he's done not only in the regular season but then in the playoffs when it matters the most? You look at his body of work, you look at what he did at Four Nations this year too. Like, he's a guy who you can win games around. A cup contender would love to have this guy on their team. Who's going to be able to afford him? That's probably the bigger question. We'll have to do some deeper dives on the salary cap. But Brad Marchand's a guy who definitely has been increasing his market value each and every game in this playoff series. And if you're also wondering, yes, the Dairy Queen boys were back for game 2. Seth, we get that tweet too for game 3. But it was confirmed that they did not go to Dairy Queen before game 1. They lost game 1. They went to Dairy Queen before game 2. They won game 2, and then now the Panthers admin ahead of game 3 says that the pregame snack was secured. It does look like my investigative journalism. It looks like a cookie dough blizzard, which is Marchand's favorite. So the pregame snack is secured, although it does look like a small. I feel like Marchand's more of a medium guy because the smalls are kind of small.
Yeah, I kind of like the size under the small. I think it's called mini at Dairy Queen. Like, I feel like it's just all I can do. But just looking at that cookie dough blizzard, Keith, I think me and the wife might have to go to DQ after we're done recording here. It's getting me pretty hungry.
I feel that. I actually did get ice cream yesterday at a local, homemade ice cream place. There's nothing better. We got the Oreo cream flavor. Forget about it. That stuff's top notch. A little hot fudge on top. But back to the hockey, right? Let's go into Edmonton for a second here. I mean, the Oilers, for the most part, they had played a great game. They were down, going into that last 17 seconds. But then Corey Perry was able to tie it. Let's get the tying goal up before we go into the other goal that I'm really, really excited about. But 17 seconds, I think it was Jake Wallman just got the puck to the front of the net. Corey Perry gets his stick on this shot. Still another shot where it wasn't a clean look, but just enough to get his stick on the puck, lift it up a little bit, and beat Bob in a spot that he wasn't seeing with all that traffic in front. And man, did Edmonton, the stadium was rocking when they scored this. You're tying the game, 17 seconds left in the Stanley Cup Final to potentially go up 2-0 in the series. What a good moment for Edmonton. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for them, though.
Yeah, you probably couldn't hear anyone around you if they were trying to speak to you right after that goal win, and that arena was insane. And whether you were listening on the radio or watching on TV, you could just almost feel the energy from the Oilers fans, because just watching it, it was a crazy game, and it kind of needed a goal like that. But I really didn't think the Oilers had it in them to tie the game that late and send it off to OT. But a word you used earlier, just an innocuous shot by Jake Wallman, falls in front. And how about Eetu Luostarinen on that play? He's checking Corey Perry's got his stick, but Perry somehow outmuscles him. Kind of a little chip job of a shot that just beats Sergei Bobrovsky because of all the craziness in front of the net. But just leave it to the worm, leave it to the rat. These guys are just clutch on either side of the ice, and hopefully one of them comes up the clutch for their teams tonight in Game 3.
I mean, that graphic we just pulled up, right? Marchand was first with Stanley Cup Final goals with 10. Who was right behind him? But Corey Perry with 9. So he's another guy, right? He's 40 years old. He's been taking 1 year vet minimum deals for the last 3 or 4 years. He's a guy who definitely could be worth more on the open market, but he's honestly at a point in his life, I feel, where he doesn't need the financial compensation. He just loves the game and he wants to win. So he's helping the team out by taking a pretty team-friendly deal and playing a big role. I mean, he's been on with McDavid and Draisaitl for a lot of time in these first 2 games and in the playoffs in general. So it's not like he's just playing a typical, third, fourth line role. He's getting in the mix, and he's done a really good job in these playoffs.
Yeah, he's been in 4 of the last 5 Stanley Cup Finals for a reason, Keith, and just comes through when it matters. We saw him on that list, as you say. We've seen him score big goals, and I even feel like if he's not playing with Draisaitl and McDavid, and Knoblauch even has him on another line, which we haven't seen in a while, but he'd probably still be performing, or at least still doing things that can benefit the team. Corey Perry's done it from his time in Anaheim and now to his time in Edmonton. There's been a few stops in between, as we know, but he's a playoff player when it matters. And he's not going to get Brad Marchand money, as we know. He's a little older than Marchand, but Corey Perry's going to be highly sought after, and he wants to continue his career.
Yeah, he's definitely a playoff player. And then also this guy, Connor McDavid, number 97 on the Edmonton Oilers. He's also a playoff player. Seth, if we get this goal that he had to Leon Draisaitl, the game was 2-2 at this point, Oilers on the power play. And he just toe drags the Selke winner, the best defensive forward in the league. Then he puts Aaron Ekblad on absolute skates right there. Ekblad might still be trying to find his ankles after that one. He's another top defenseman. And then he just finds Leon Draisaitl wide open. Look at this angle the Oilers team posted. I mean, I got no words for this, man. This guy is amazing.
Yeah, the little shimmy shake on Barkov was one thing. The toe drag right around Ekblad was another. If you they panned over to Ekblad after this, he just got up there, as we see. But he was on the ice on one knee for 5 to 10 seconds. He kind of knew what just happened to him, and he knew the goal was a thing of beauty by Connor McDavid. He even called him McJesus in a media availability he did yesterday. But yeah, when McJesus is on, he's making us all entertained, and obviously Oilers fans lost their minds after that. It kind of sucks it ended up coming in overtime loss now, but still one of the best plays we've ever seen Connor McDavid make.
Yeah, just 2 really, really good games. And to your point, when Ekblad called him McJesus, I was like, that says it all, right? One of the better defensemen in the league is literally speechless talking about the best player in the NHL. So that's just how much of another level Connor McDavid is on. If we want to look at the playoffs, right? Scoring chances created. You're helping your teammates get in the mix. Connor McDavid, to no one's surprises, in first place. He has 104 scoring chances created in the playoffs. Second best is Leon Draisaitl with 76. So it's not even close. There's a gap of 30 scoring chances created between first and second place. Third place is Mikko Rantanen with 73. So Connor McDavid is just creating so many opportunities for everyone on the ice, either himself or one of his teammates, to get on the score sheet. He's doing so at an incredible rate, and he's really putting the team on his back. Not like we didn't expect him to, but he's taken it up even another level that I didn't necessarily knew he had.
No, and the Oilers' depth has been awesome through 3 rounds and into the Stanley Cup Final. But like these first 2 games, like it's been the McDavid show, hasn't it? Leon Draisaitl obviously scored 2 in the first game. He was the recipient of that great pass from McDavid there. But like McDavid, as you say, just putting the team on his back. He doesn't want a situation like last year where they're down in the series. They're almost down and out. And I knew they came back and lost by a goal in game 7. But like he does not want to repeat of what happened last year. We all remember the footage too of him in the dressing room, not impressed with his team. Like we don't want to see that this year. McDavid doesn't want to have to do that and lash out on his team again this year. He wants to raise that Stanley Cup.
He does indeed. And now we take the series to Florida. We got game 3 coming up tonight in a couple of hours. Seth, if we get the lines and the lineup combos presented by our friends over at Coolbet, stay cool, bet responsibly. If you go to puckpedia.com/coolbet, you can get in on the action tonight. If you want to take a look at the Florida Panthers lineup first, the home team, they're minus 147 on the money line. They're going to be without AJ Greer is coming back into the lineup on that 4th line. He's replacing Jesper Boquist. I don't know if you saw that video that Beecher Report posted, but they said AJ Greer will be the most dangerous teammate with the Stanley Cup if the Panthers do win this year. So that's something to keep your eyes on. Marshan called him reckless and just said that they can't be trusted. So interesting to see that AJ Greer has that reputation in terms of protecting the Stanley Cup. So we'll see how that plays out. D pairs remain the same for the Panthers. We got Bobrovsky in net. Obviously, if you look at the Edmonton Oilers, they are plus 125 on the money line. Surprisingly, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is a game time decision. He's going to take warm-ups and see how he feels. He came on late in the morning skate this morning. We would imagine that our guy Jeff Skinner enters the lineup if RNH can't play, but that would be a huge loss for the Edmonton Oilers. He's a very solid player, huge hockey IQ, makes a lot of good plays. He plays on power play 1, plays some penalty kill time too. So that would be a big loss for the Oilers if he's not able to play tonight. Rest of the lines look the same. D pairs are actually kind of shaken up a little bit. We have Nurse and Bouchard together, then Ekholm and Klingberg, Wallman and Kulak. So interesting to see Chris Knoblauch shaking up the D pairs, and to no one's surprise, Stuart Skinner manning the net. The over-under is set at 6.5 tonight. What catches your eyes here, Tyler?
Yeah, it's got to be the D pairings being shaken up. I think a lot of people think this might be a smokescreen by Chris Knoblauch, but you never know when it comes to the Stanley Cup Final. You're kind of doing anything to try to throw your opponent off, and maybe Chris Knoblauch's doing that, or maybe he is changing his D pairings, which I've liked quite a bit. Like Wallman and Klingberg hasn't been bad. Like Ekholm, if he's playing with Kulak, or Nurse and Bouchard have been a pairing before, but they've been pretty good. Like I feel like we'll still see the D pairings that we saw in game 1 and 2, but maybe they'll line up like this in warm up, and then maybe they won't start the game. So we'll have to wait and see tonight in Florida once the teams do take the ice. And obviously the Ryan Nugent-Hopkins injury could play a big part in the Edmonton Oilers. Like if Jeff Skinner comes in, fine. He's been okay when he's gotten his few games so far in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but like, as you say, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is just such a big piece of this offense. He's not Connor McDavid. He's not Leon Draisaitl, but he's still one of the best and most talented players on this Oilers roster. So hopefully he plays and can battle through whatever he's dealing with. He's going to take warm-up and kind of figure it out from there. So kind of status quo if Ryan Nugent-Hopkins does play with that lineup. And then on the other side, you mentioned AJ Greer. That was a funny quote that came out of Florida. I wonder who that player was last year. Like, do you think it was Ryan Lomberg maybe? Like, the Lamborghini never had a shirt on. He just seemed like a weapon when he had the Stanley Cup in his possession. So maybe that was Lomberg last year, and maybe that could be AJ Greer this year. But I don't even think Oilers fans want us to talk about that because they still want the Oilers to win the Cup. But Greer's coming in. He fits on that 4th line perfectly. When Paul Maurice brought that entire 4th line into the lineup in the Maple Leaf series, they just really succeeded very quickly. So AJ Greer coming back is big for this Panthers team. Marshan, we'll see if he can continue doing it. And maybe Alexander Barkov could get on the score sheets, Keith. Like that's the guy I'm looking at tonight who hasn't had a point yet through 2 games. They've been decently high-scoring games as well, and we haven't seen Barkov on the score sheet yet. We know he kind of got walked by McDavid on the goal we just saw recently, but we'll see if Sasha Barkov, the captain, can come through tonight and help the Panthers win a big Game 3 on home ice.
I'd like to talk about Sasha Barkov for a second here. A lot of people complaining, right? Pointless through the first 2 games of the Stanley Cup Final. But he's also just won the Selke Trophy, right? So he's known as one of the best defensive forwards in the NHL, probably the best defensive center in the NHL. So in this playoffs right now, he's had 42 5-on-5 minutes throughout the first two games of the Stanley Cup Final. 22 of those minutes were against Connor McDavid. So naturally, when you're on those shifts, you have to be more in a defensive mindset, hopefully being able to shut down McDavid. It's only 0-1 on the score sheet. So McDavid's only had one goal at 5-on-5 against Sasha Barkov while he's been on the ice. So from that perspective, Barkov's done a really good job. He's actually also kind of won his minutes, generally speaking, on the ice. He has a 55% expected goal share, and then the high danger chances are 11-7. So even though the goals, I think, were 0-2 at 5-on-5 in his minutes, he's doing well. The underlying numbers are good, and I think that they're going to kind of get it in gear tonight. If you want to take a look at Reinhart and Barkov's line last game, they had a 60% expected goal share compared to game one. They only had a 36% expected goal share. So they're a line that, saw what happened in game one, turned it around a little bit in game two. It looks like there might be some shakeup with their third winger. It looks like Carter Verhaeghe might be on that first line tonight instead of Evan Rodriguez, who has played there mostly in the playoffs the last few games. But Verhaeghe is a guy who's played with Barkov and Reinhart in the regular season and parts of last season too. So it's not a new guy to him, and maybe that kind of gets their line going a little bit more offensively, especially on game three when the Florida Panthers have the last change.
Yeah, we know Paul Maurice probably isn't worried about Sasha Barkov being pointless, like a lot of people are, as you say, and he kind of joked about trading him because he hasn't got a point. But like the underlying numbers that you mentioned do speak for themselves. Like when the numbers are that good and defensively you're playing against the best player in the league and you're playing quite well, like the points will come. It's only been 2 games, so that's why I'm not worried about Barkov. I just think they might come tonight. Like it's a big game 3. We've kind of joked that the Oilers are almost guaranteed to win game 4. Like the Stuart Skinner numbers speaks for themselves in game number 4s. And I know some people might not take that all too seriously, but maybe Skinner just locks in game 4 of series for a reason. So it's a big game for the Panthers, and defensively we know he'll be good, but we'll see if offensively, if Reinhart and Barkov can maybe make some magic happen tonight and put a few points on the score sheet.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that plays out too. And then another guy too, Sam Bennett, right? He's been an absolute weapon in this series so far in the first 2 games. If we want to look at the Coolbet Conn Smythe odds before the Stanley Cup playoffs, or the Stanley Cup finals rather, not the playoffs, the finals, he was about plus 3,000 to win that Conn Smythe trophy. He's all the way down to plus 450 right now. So if we can get that video of him from the last game, he's obviously getting on the score sheet. He has the most goals in these playoffs, but then he does shit like this that just is like so annoying. But it's well within the rules because he makes it look like an accident. He does it better than anyone else in the league. He gets under the skin of goalies. I think he finally got a goalie interference call against him last game, but he makes all this contact and then he makes it look accidental when he flies into other people. If he high sticks you, if he kicks your stick, it's all accidentally on purpose. And he's a guy I look to tonight, because if he scores, the crowd is going to go electric. He's a guy that this team loves. We'll see what happens in the offseason when he's an unrestricted free agent. But for right now, he's Florida's guy, and his Conn Smythe odds have absolutely skyrocketed. He's third favorite right now, behind only Connor McDavid and Sergei Bobrovsky.
Yeah, if it was handed out right now as we speak and the Florida Panthers were Cup champions, it most likely would be Sam Bennett. That's why that number's jumped up so high. And what we just saw there, it sucks for Oilers fans and for Matthias Ekholm, whose stick that was, and he had to go pick it up because the Panthers scored right after that. That's why Matthias Ekholm was really upset. But like, it's just such a perfect little pesty play by Bennett. Like the way that he brings his stick in to make it a little closer to his skate, so then the skate hits it. It's just the perfect play. Like, I love when players play on the line like this. Not a lot of other people do, but Sam Bennett does it perfectly. He's one of the best in the league at it. And Corey Perry's done it for his whole career on the other side. So at least Oilers fans have one of the guys that's done it for 20 years in the NHL on their side of things. But Sam Bennett, such a fun player to watch. And yeah, we'll see if he can have a big game 3 tonight.
Yeah, and for the Oilers side of things too, right? It's the first time that they're doing the long travel, so we'll see if that plays a factor. Also, the Florida ice is going to be probably a little worse than the Edmonton ice, just due to the humidity and the temperature in South Florida compared to Edmonton. So that's going to be something to see if that plays out well. Just looking at like last year's Cup Final to this year's, like the goals kind of are a little less in Florida due to maybe the ice conditions. So maybe the Coolbet under 6.5 goals could be a play tonight. But then also too, like we mentioned, you mentioned the gamesmanship. The gamesmanship's interesting because in the warmups, maybe the D pairs are shooken up, and then when the game starts, they go back to normal. But then also, too, you look at when does Chris Knobloch put Connor and Leon together? Both games, he kind of started to not put them together, but then when he needs to, he quickly puts them together and lets them ride throughout the rest of the game. So they obviously get the power play. I mean, the Oilers had 6 power play opportunities in game 2. They were only able to capitalize one. So that's another area where Edmonton might want to be able to take advantage. If you got 6 power play opportunities, you hope to get 2 goals there would be the goal, 33%. But, it never works out that way sometimes. And Edmonton's going to have to try to, they're playing against a good penalty kill in Florida. But to me, when does Corey Perry, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl come together in their 2 games to this playoffs? They're 69% and 71% in expected goals in those 2 games. So they've obviously won their minutes pretty handedly. So we'll see when that shift takes place, especially not having the last change. He might have to do it sooner. He might do it opening faceoff.
Yeah, and if not, if it's like 1-0, 2-0 Panthers in the first period, it's probably going to happen very soon after that. And in your points of the ice, like we know in Edmonton, I think it's top 3. I think the Bell Center in Montreal is the best ice statistically. And when the players do that NHLPA poll, they say it's the Bell Center. I think T-Mobile Arena in Vegas is like 2 or 3. And the arena at Edmonton Rogers
the dry heat, maybe Vegas instead of the humid heat.
Like that, and I think they're just really, really good at what they do in Vegas. That's a part of it. But in Edmonton, it's really good. But as you say, I wouldn't mind taking the under tonight because of maybe the ice conditions being a little worse than in games 1 and 2 at Edmonton. So we'll see if that actually happens tonight. We'll see if it's a bit more tight checking after we had an overtime game and a double overtime game. I feel like the series might shift a little and take like a little step backwards, but hopefully not. And hopefully we're really entertained like we were in the first 2 games.
We'll see what happens tonight. I mean, these were 2 of the best first 2 games of the Stanley Cup Final in recent memory. It had everything you wanted. 2 overtime games, 2 crazy comebacks, back and forth action. You had feistiness, you had chippiness. I mean, just everything you could want in a Stanley Cup Final. So I'm fired up for game 3. I know Tyler's fired up for game 3. Puck drops in about 90 minutes. So we got quick turnaround. We're going to get right into the game tonight. And then let's finish off the episode here with our Puck Doku boards, our partnered sponsored Puck Doku boards. If you were going to puckdoku.com today, you would see that myself, Tyler, and Seth were hosting the Puck Doku board today. We picked the 6 categories here. So I think, Tyler, which 2 categories were yours?
I had Coyotes and KHL as my 2.
Correct. And then I had the Bruins and the 500-plus PIMs. And then Seth had Team USA and then active in the NHL from 2010-2011 to 2019-2020. If you want to take a look at the boards, again, just a masterclass from Seth, a 0 uniqueness. Kind of surprising given the types of names he had on his board. I mean, you look at Sidney Crosby being on the board as a guy who had 500-plus PIMs and played in the 2010s. Like that feels like a guy you thought might have had a little higher score, but at the same time, you don't think of Sidney Crosby as a guy who gets a lot of penalties. So maybe that slid under the radar. But like Chris Kreider being on there, Rick Nash also being on there, like guys who are, do pretty well in the league, pretty popular players. So interesting that Seth was able to kind of get them under the radar. And then we look at your board here, Tyler. We had the same. We had both had Paul Mara. You had him in the 500 PIMs, played for Team USA. I had him in the Coyotes Bruins. So 4 different categories that guy fit into on this board. So that's pretty interesting. And then Shane Knighty, I mean, what facial hair that guy has in that picture. Just like a little chin rug underneath there. Not even a full goatee. Maybe a flick of the soul patch as well, just for fun. Then looking at my board, I think a guy, Gusev, you said that it was a guy you wish you had picked there. I mean, he played, I want to say, only in that 1920 season that would have checked the box for that category. But KHL legend, played there before the NHL, played there, went back after the NHL. So he's a guy I had my eye on for that square. I was surprised Reed Boucher got 2 for KHL Team USA. I thought that would be a little bit lower. Anytime you could use Bryce Salvador, MSG Network analyst, former Devil, you use him. Guy who got a lot of penalty minutes in his career. Jim McKenzie, too, a guy, former Devil, but Coyote, guy who had, I think 1,800 penalty minutes. So he's a guy who got after it. What caught your eye here?
Yeah, a lot. First of all, Nikita Gusev, legend. I love when he came over to the NHL. I wish it worked a little better, but it usually doesn't for a lot of these Russian players. But and Reed Boucher, just went over to the KHL and just started absolutely crushing it. So maybe that's why he's at 2%. Like, he's a really, really good KHL player. You also had Jason Demers. Speaking about guys in the media now, Jason Demers, a guest on our show a lot on Sirius XM NHL Network Radio. He's on NHL Network doing a lot of great work on the television side. So you had a great board. A 4 uniqueness is great. Like a 5 total for all 3 of us. I know we picked all the categories, but I think that's pretty elite. And then, yeah, going to mine, Shane Knighty, like the scruff that he had down there, that was brutal. I think he'd even say it now, and he's doing a great job on the Amazon Prime broadcast that the NHL is putting together. I had Ryan Spooner. I was pretty shocked that our producer Seth did not have Ryan Spooner, because I knew he was a big fan when Spooner was a Ranger, but I had to throw him in there. Steven Kampfer, I had in the same square as Seth, and I did this hours previous to Seth. Like, I think I did this before 7 a.m. Eastern time today. I had a 1% on Kampfer, which was my uniqueness in 1. So crazy that Seth had the 0.4, but you got to love all those Bruins that he picked up there, and more Kampfer and Nash. And yeah, like you, pretty shocked. At least Chris Kreider, maybe not Crosby, because I feel like a lot of people don't even know he's at 500 career penalty minutes, but he's played a lot of time. But Chris Kreider, Team USA, 500 plus PIMs, 0.9%. I'm guessing that's up now, but gotta love Seth's board. Like Enver Leeson, I always had him on my AHL team, I feel like, when I played the NHL video game. So I like that Enver Leeson pick as well from Seth.
That's always the argument too when I play it. The constant internal battle. It's like the later you go on in the day, are the numbers going to go up or down, because you have more people who played it, but then there's also a chance more people picked your guy, but then there's also a chance no one picked your guy, so then his percentage goes down. So it works both ways. Sometimes you get lucky on that, and sometimes you get unlucky.
For sure. And I think we have an internal investigation going for Seth, like another 0. I don't know about you, Keith, but I know he's on a trip right now. He's working hard from a different country, but I don't know, a 0. How many times did Seth do this one today?
Unfortunately, I saw some of the replies on Puck Doku's X account, and there are a bunch of people that got zeros. A couple super hardcore fans. I think one guy was like, all Canucks, 0. Then another guy was like, oh, I did all Flyers, 0. So there are some absolute hockey junkies who get into these every single day and post 0 uniqueness. And I think Seth's just in that category. Instead of doing heroin, he just watches 2015 game highlights and just knows the ins and outs of where all these people played. He's a walking hockey encyclopedia. So good for him. If you go to puckdoku.com, post your score either on reply to this tweet or reply to Puck Doku's X account. And let's see what you guys are made of today. But yeah, we partnered with the board. Shout out Taylor for hooking it up with us. Great game to just play. There's also the pyramid game. There's a Doku Junior. So get in on all the action on puckdoku.com. But that's all the time we have for you guys here. We've got puck drop of Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final in 90 minutes. Are the Oilers or the Panthers going to take a 2-1 series lead? Next game is Thursday. That's when our next show will be. Snipes and Insights, PuckPedia Hockey Show, presented by our friends at Coolbet. Go to puckpedia.com/Coolbet to get in on the action tonight. Everyone have a good night and enjoy some hockey.